So tomorrow is the mid-season update for Modern Warfare 2, yeah, but today I want to take some time to run down some new information in regards to XDefiant and what we can expect when it comes to some post-launch content, as well as some other smaller things. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What are you thinking for XDefiant here? You're liking what we've seen so far? Think Mark Rubin and co are nailing it with communication? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, and just want to stay up to date with all things XDefiant and other FPS content, drop a like on it and consider subscribing to stay in the loop with everything. And finally, check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage. We just launched the limited run of the Espresso bundle, but more on that a little bit later. For now, let's jump into it. So, while not a whole ton has been publicly stated from the official XDefiant accounts, like when we can expect to see the game actually launching, we have heard a bit more chatter on a few topics from executive producer Mark Rubin on the project over on Twitter, keeping us up to date a bit more with things like post-launch weaponry, how rewards will go, and a little bit more of detailing of how skill-based matchmaking, or rather a lack thereof within XDefiant, will work, and how the matchmaking for casual play will work versus ranked play. So that said, firstly, let's talk about the content. We already know that post-launch, we're going to see a little bit of this sort of preseason window before we lead into season 1 and that year 1 of content starting to follow. Year 1 will include 4 seasons across that 12-month span, each lasting 3 months with a new set of items of 3 weapons, 3 new maps, a 90-tier battle pass, a new faction, as well as other things like modes, features, and other smaller stuff to come along seasonally. So there's a clearly laid out plan here for what at least the first year of support will look like. What year 2 and beyond may look like, that's still up in the air, and of course, I don't even think that's really a priority for anybody in development right now. Just simply getting the game up and running is the big topic of priority. But one question that was a very valid one that was asked by a follower of the channel, Nitro. He asked if anything would be behind paywalls, to which Ruben replied, weapons are on the free track of the battle pass, so just need to grind for them. Factions can be both bought or grinded without paying. Basically, no gameplay behind a paywall, just cosmetics. So very similar to what we see in COD now, but it's kind of the proper way, I think, to do it, not locking any functional items behind any sort of paywall, even if the battle pass is a paid entry. So for this, of course, you'll have access to the weapons for free just for simply playing the game. Factions, it kind of seems like it will be those extracurricular melee weapons by comparison for COD, where you can grind them out, but you will be able to fast track it and buy them immediately if you'd like, but there is absolutely no reason to. Something that I always just usually grind them out. The one smaller detail, if I'm not mistaken, this actually might be one of the first times they confirmed that the battle pass will have a free and a paid sector, which is kind of inconsequential big picture, or rather just kind of something that is expected at this point, very minuscule, because for the most part that is the industry standard, but that is the confirmation of it. Now, the mention further for monetization or cosmetics was brought up, with the specific mention of the return of loot boxes, to which Mark Rubin said, and I quote, "No loot boxes right now, but we are thinking of ways to do limited time exclusive events to create rare items." And personally, I'm happy to hear that. Happy to hear that loot boxes are not returning. If you guys have been around the channel long enough, you know that that's a rabbit hole that is just, it's never ending. And it seems like once it's monetized, it's always going to be pushed further and further and further. So personally, I'm against loot boxes, and in some areas of the world, I think it's genuinely illegal now at this point for games to push them on the consumer. So I don't know that we'll be seeing that model come back for a while, which I'm all for, again, personally speaking. Now, yes, there were some ways that theoretically could have worked well, like Advanced Warfare's initial intention for supply drops was never meant to be monetized. There are developers on record saying that that is the case, where they never wanted this to be monetized. And in that case, it would have been cool. You just play the game, simply earn items as you go along. Incentivize grinding in that regard, absolutely zero monetization alongside that, and all cosmetic stuff. But then it changed into something else. World War II, Modern Warfare Remastered, they had a better way in which it was handled, where there were supply drops, yes, but you could earn credits and salvage to unlock things specifically without ever having to play into the gambling aspect of supply drops. World War II was a little bit easier to gain everything without putting a single dime into the game by comparison to Modern Warfare Remastered, but both were still possible. But anyways, I think there is a much better way to do monetization than what we've seen with supply drops, and also what we see right now with both COD and Fortnite, with bundles being absurdly overpriced, but that's a different story for a different day. However, there will almost guaranteed be a paid shop on top of things here. How they handle that, that's uncertain at the moment. But with this game being free to play, as much as it is a love letter to the arcade FPS genre, from a business perspective, there still needs to be revenues. Otherwise, well, there just wouldn't be any upkeep and support to keep the game going past even just launch and to keep the servers on. So like, there does need to be a business aspect of it. I understand it, but glad we're not going that route of supply drops, and fingers crossed, not overpriced bundles. But anyways, what I do like to hear is the potential for events and limited time earnable things things that create a rare item. I'm definitely one of those people that the FOMO hits me every single time, and I am always going to grind out those things that are limited time only. I mean, COD has shown that this past year with the mid-season updates, with the sort of mastery camos introduced along those seasonal updates. Go for those every single time. I will absolutely do the same here within XDefiant. Now, what those will entail, how we'll end up seeing, there's just not enough detail to end up even speculating on that. So that is something we'll learn about in time, along with seemingly a lot more that is going to be revealed post-launch here and some of the support coming later on down the line. The last thing that was mentioned, though, by Mark Rubin alongside this recent update was the talk of how matchmaking will work, skill-based matchmaking versus non in ranked versus casual modes. This being a little bit of a thread, so bear with me, there's a bit to digest here. He first stated the point of no skill-based matchmaking in casual is to create a variety of gameplay experiences so that not every game is basically against the same skill level as you. Given that skill is a bell curve and most people fall in the middle-ish region, you will get into lobbies that have some players better than you and some players worse than you. And then teams are chosen based on skill such that each team has an equal chance to win. So the teams are balanced, but you'll see a variety of skill on each team. If you are just a really awful player at the bottom of the skill curve, then most players in the lobby will be better than you, but again, the teams will be balanced, so you should have an even 50-50 chance of winning. Also, one of the benefits of our objective modes and our faction abilities is that even if you are not necessarily good at shooting, you can still contribute to the team via objectives and ability use. So that's something that, honestly, when we look at this, it might sound like he's still kind of advocating a little bit for some skill-based matchmaking system, and that's just really how it's always been. I mean, if you take a look back at Black Ops 2 and games all the way back in that like classic era, there is an element of what you could call skill-based matchmaking, but it is something that follows the same exact parameters here of what we see, where you're not going to have any hidden MMR that dictates you can only play with this certain chunk of players. Instead, it's something that will take your connection into account first and foremost, but then it will balance out that, say, 12 players you have in a single lobby and try and make it so it is an even fight, so not one team is going to be stacked up. Now, obviously, that breaks down a little bit whenever you go into parties and such, so you might see the return of pub stomping here within XDefiant a little bit, but for the most part, it is going to be exactly what you'd expect as a solo player, where playing solo for most of those classic COD games all the way up to Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, even upwards of like Black Ops 4 to a degree that recently, it is something you could absolutely do well in crush and solos, but you would absolutely notice that disparity between you and the second player on your team a lot more than you may now today in recent matchmaking games. So inherently, there's not going to be any skill-based matchmaking system, but there will still be team balancing, and that's a very important distinction to be able to recognize. So that's what we'll be seeing here in casual play and ranked play. That's where you'll have that actual MMR system where you're only allowed to match up with or play with people of your same skill level. But all in all, that's the new updates here for XDefiant and what we have learned about in recent days from Mark Rubin, executive producer at Ubisoft. Now, again, still looking forward to that announcement here of when the game will actually launch, but for now, that's where we're gonna leave it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Before we wrap everything up, I want to take a few extra seconds talking about Gamer Advantage. You guys have heard the pitch before. I truly think that they're the best blue light glasses company on the market, most lightweight, comfortable, and durable frames out there. But if you've yet to pick up a pair for yourself, or maybe you want another pair, we just teamed up to launch the Espresso Bundle. But what makes this bundle different from any other is only a little bit, but it's a cool way to directly show some love to the channel. You get a pair of the Inferno glasses, great choice, with my logo etched into the frames, and a microfiber carry pouch, as well as cleaning cloth, both branded with the channel's artwork, and a polarized magnetic sun clip, which is really cool if you want to use these as a pair of sunglasses as well. And if they are, say, your prescription pair, you can use them as your daily drivers, but also use them as sunglasses with this as well. So these are in limited stock. I don't think we're going to be doing another batch for quite some time, so if you'd like to pick them up while supplies last, and of course, use code Espresso to get yourself 10% off your entire order. Links in the description below if you're at all interested. But for now, that is what we're going to call it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, like what we're hearing about XDefiant, waiting for the launch here of the game. Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things XDefiant, Modern Warfare 2 with Season 4 Reloaded coming tomorrow, and a bunch of other FPS content. We got you covered here on the channel. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.